Welcome back to Yahoo Finance's live coverage of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Excuse me. I'm Andy Serwer, editor-in-chief. I'm joined with Alexis Christoforous.
And we want to welcome our next guest, Tom Nides, Morgan Stanley Managing Director and Vice Chairman. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
You've been to Davos now how many times?
Probably too many times. But I think I'm probably on my 10th trip.
Wow.
I'm just curious sort of how this year compares to other years in terms of just sentiment overall. Do you feel like there's a sort of optimism in the air amongst those that you're talking to? Are people more cautiously optimistic perhaps about the economy?
Yeah, listen, it's hard not to be positive about the economy. So if you walk in here, you can't, having seen what's happened in 19, I think people are generally optimistic, but I think people are cautious because I think people's view is what goes up comes down. Invariably, this is going to change. When it's going to change, it's anyone's bet. But I don't think this continues on the track it is for the next 2 years. So I think there is a general healthy bit of optimism with a good dose of anxiety.
Tom, Morgan Stanley just reported some BAFO numbers, and maybe that's a little strong, but running on all cylinders, right? Company's doing great. So let me ask you, what keeps you up at night over at Morgan Stanley? What are you guys concerned about?
Well, listen, I think as James Gorman has articulated very clearly, we have a very clear strategy, right? Half our revenues are coming from the institutional business, half of our business is coming from the wealth management business. It's a balance. It's a clear view that the investors like. They like the results. They like our mix of businesses, and I think they like the leadership that we've kind of articulated. What we always worry about is the economy. We're not any different than other companies that are sensitive to economic ups and downs. I mean, the good thing, I think, for us is that in a kind of normalized economy, I think we'll do just fine. We put out a pretty good strategic plan a couple days ago. Obviously, the earnings were good, but we understand that this is about the long term. It's quarter after quarter, year after year, but I think the real message is we have a balanced business that hopefully will be able to withstand the ups and downs of markets.
In your previous life, you were Chief of Staff to U.S. Trade Representative Mickey Cantor in the Clinton administration. So I'd like your unique perspective on the Phase 1 trade deal. Does it do enough? And are you optimistic about a Phase 2? Because we really don't have a timeline for when that might happen.
Listen, I'd rather have a deal than not a deal. I mean, it's clear that for all of us who are in the markets, having a calmness in our markets with one of our largest, if not the largest trading partner, that'd be China, is important. So I don't discount that of the importance. Do I believe we need additional reforms? Without question. Do I believe that the administration is doing a good job of trying to get them to the table? I give them credit for that. I'm not going to overplay it, and I don't think they should overplay it. This is the beginning of a long discussion during the Obama administration, which I was proud to serve in. We too have many discussions, a lot of bilateral discussions about trade deals and attempts to try to break down trade barriers, which the Chinese have done. I know you have my friend Mike Froman coming in. He probably will be as articulate as any of us as on what we accomplished in the administration. But listen, I'm happy for it. I think the markets like it, and obviously the proof is in the pudding. Exactly what it's going to come and how it's going to benefit consumers.
Tom, you and I have talked about the Democrats' prospects in November, which candidate, and I know you're a keen observer and sometimes participant in the process. And you talked about the left and how to mobilize that candidate and the more centrist candidates and what it would take for them to win. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Listen, this campaign season is about ready to get going. I think it's 12 days Iowa starts. We're going to have a robust caucus in Iowa, which then leads into New Hampshire, and then Nevada, and then South Carolina, and then ultimately to Super Tuesday. I think we're hearing from voters that they want to win. Okay, so if you're a political observer, as I am, and obviously I lean more Democratic, and if you believe that you want to win, I think the view of this is to win is going to be that people want change, but maybe not radical change. Because listen, let's face it, the economy is doing quite well. And I think given that, I think people have angst about how much change they want. So again, I think that the idea that the Democrats' energy is certainly significant. But as an observer, as I am, I think a middle-of-the-road candidate would probably have the best shot at potentially, which is going to be a very difficult camp regardless, having the best shot of ultimately winning the election in 2020.
Who would be the best person, though, to keep the bull market running and to keep the economy growing?
Listen, as we know, presidents play an important role, but they're not God. As we all know, markets go up and markets go down. Economies speed up and economies slow down. So no president, neither Democrat nor Republican, should overplay their hand. We should not feel just because the stock market's going up that everyone should get the kudos for it, and when the market goes down, they don't necessarily get the blame for it. We have to be really balanced as voters and as citizens. We have just come off and still in the middle of the best economic time we've had in a decade. This will slow down at some point. So listen, who's the right person? Who is the right president? That's for the voters to decide. But ultimately, the president probably doesn't have as much to do about the direction of the economy as the economy itself does.
All right, we'll leave it there. Tom Nides, Morgan Stanley Managing Director and Vice Chairman. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.